customer or client? Now, the other day I was listening to an audio book by J. Abraham. Now, if you don't know who J. Abraham is, I highly recommend you do a Google search on him. But if you do know maybe Dan Kennedy, he's probably along the same lines as Dan Kennedy. Now, fans of both would probably argue on that. They'd probably say, well, Dan's better than Jay and Jay's better than Dan. But both of those gentlemen are marketing wizards, in that they can go into a company that's probably making a loss, that is maybe on the verge of closing down. They are those people who can kind of step in, spot kind of money making opportunities or things that the businesses are doing wrong, and they can transform them round. Now, in the audiobook I was listening to, Jay said you should look at your customer as a client rather than a customer. Now, if you imagine I went into a store today and I was looking for a mousetrap, in the case of probably 99% of stores, I will walk in, put my little mousetrap on the counter, hand over my cash and walk out, and that will be the only transaction that will take place between me and the storekeeper. And unfortunately, a lot of offline businesses at the moment are being hit hard, and that is one of the reasons they are being hit hard, is because they are looking at all those people who come into their store as customers. Now, say for example I went back into that store a second time and somebody else didn't see me as a customer but saw me as a client, and I put that little mousetrap down on the counter. I was on the verge of handing over my cash, and the storekeeper says, wait, stop, before you buy that mousetrap, I just want to show you a couple of things maybe you mightn't be aware of. Even though this might be maybe the cheapest mousetrap in the shop, if you probably look at that spring there, the spring on the mousetrap probably is only going to do maybe one or two. It's only going to work one or two times for a mouse, and I can't guarantee it would actually catch the mouse because it's a really cheap and kind of flimsy spring or whatever. But if you just follow me back down here to the area where you got the mousetrap, I just want to show you maybe another mousetrap you might consider buying that has a stronger spring. It's probably going to last, it's got like a 10-year guarantee or whatever, or it's guaranteed to catch 100 mice or whatever it is. But it has a little bit of a guarantee. It may be a little bit more expensive, but I know that this one really works. This one, on the other hand, I can't guarantee that, you know, it's going to catch a mouse, but it is the cheapest one. But I just wanted to point that out to you. Now, in the case of that storekeeper pointing out that second trap to you, there probably is a good chance, unless the price is huge between the two, but there's probably a good chance you are going to go on his recommendation because you can see the sense in what he's saying. And as I said, when you maybe get that mousetrap, when you do go out the door and you do test it out, you will probably find that maybe he was right, maybe it is a stronger one and it'll last for many, many years. But you'll probably say to maybe family and friends, you'll probably in conversation it might come up and you'll just mention about how the great service was in that shop and that the gentleman in the shop had pointed you in the right direction. And you know, unfortunately in the first case of the shopkeeper A, you know, he just waved off that customer and he never really gave much thought to them coming back again. Whereas customer B, even though he didn't realise it, I am going to give him free publicity because I'm going to tell all my friends and my family about the great service I got, and you'll probably find more people will go to his store because people will look to him as somebody who maybe they should be spending them money with because he seems to know what he's talking about. So, as Jay says in that audiobook, instead of looking at your customers, or in our case probably readers, as customers, maybe look at them as clients. And when you look at them as clients, you look at them in a completely different way. It's like me making this video here. If I was making a YouTube video or even a podcast episode, depending on how you're listening to this content, if I was making this just as an episode, I'd probably just go through the video, maybe just say a few things, but not really try and make a difference in your day or maybe add a little bit of knowledge in your head. Whereas if I looked at you rather than a podcast listener or rather than a YouTube viewer, if I looked at you maybe as more as a client, I would want you to leave this video or leave this podcast episode with something definite that you could use, some knowledge that I have learned or some mistakes or whatever, but I would want you leaving this video and this podcast episode being a little bit better than you are right now, and possibly saving you maybe time, saving you money, saving you from maybe making mistakes that I made, because I'm not looking at you as just a listener or, as I said, like a YouTube viewer. I'm looking at you as a client. And when you do kind of make that kind of mental click, you do look at people in a different way. You probably will maybe write your content in a different way. You will probably try and hold on to your customers and direct them to you, because you know that you are making good content maybe to what's out there. Again, if you are someone like a fiction writer, you're probably well aware of some of the crap that's in the Kindle store. And because you look at your customer as a client, you don't want them spending money on those crappy books. You want them spending money on books like yours. And because of that, you will fight as hard as you can to show them that, to direct them to your books only, because you know you have the good stuff compared to everybody else. And that's because you are looking at them as a client. You don't want them wasting money. You don't want them, buying crap books. You want them buying the good stuff. Or if you haven't got the good stuff right now, you'll probably recommend maybe somebody else who does provide good stuff to that person, because you see them as a client. So whatever you're doing today, again, this was a little bit of a mind switch for me too. If you do look at your readers and your customers as just customers, they, again, like that shopkeeper, you're just probably waving them off at the door. You're not paying much attention to maybe getting their details or trying to get back in front of them again. They're just a customer. Whereas if you look at your customer or reader as a client, you can probably see you are going to treat them in a completely different way. And because you are going to treat them in a completely different way, you are going to stand out from everybody else. And when it comes to buying products or recommendations or whatever it is, you are probably going to be the one that they are going to recommend, because you treat them like a client rather than a customer. So keep that in mind today, whatever part of your business, whether it's writing, blogging, whatever it is you're doing, start treating your viewers and your listeners and your readers as clients rather than customers. And I'm sure it'll make a big difference in your mindset and what you do. So as always, if you'd like to find more of this great content, again, you can probably subscribe to the podcast or subscribe to YouTube. I'll send the next videos to you. Or if you'd like to do maybe a Google search right now, do a search for WriteCome, WriteCome.com, and you'll find the content all over the web. And if you go to the main site right now, WriteCome.com, you'll find all the content over there. And not only will you find that, but you'll find all the products and everything else we do. So if you are someone who is interested in self-publishing, creating books or courses or whatever it is, you'll find all the good stuff over there. And also you'll find all the podcast episodes and videos as well. So as always, thanks for sharing your time again today. Start looking at your customers as clients. Have a great day. Bye bye.